I'm Cindy Briggs, and this is Soldier's Heart. We've reached the final chapter of our story. What happens to a soldier, a sailor, an airman, a Marine, once the fighting stops? What happens when the uniform is packed away one last time, replaced by a suit, overalls, a t-shirt and jeans? How does the experience of war change a person? That last question, that's the one that keeps me up at night. That's the one I most want to understand. For every veteran I've interviewed, their experiences change their lives permanently. Sometimes for good, sometimes for bad, but no one returns unaltered. Many of the men I interviewed for this season of Soldier's Heart have passed on. All World War II veterans are now in their mid-90s and beyond. We only have them for a short time. Yet their stories, their memories, and experiences will continue to reverberate with us long into the future. Remember, and consider how their experiences might change your life too.
I met one guy when I took my Armored Force training at Fort Knox. A guy named Bud Walker. He was from Greensboro, Pennsylvania. And then he went to Greensboro, North Carolina. And when I got separated, I ran into him one afternoon in the diner. I was having a cup of coffee and a sandwich, and he comes walking in. I said, "Walker, what are you doing here?" He says, "I live here." That was in Greensboro. And the diner was right across from the post office in Greensboro, and I'll never forget it. He says, "Yeah," he says, "I work in the post office over here, and I come over here for lunch every day." Wow. That's the only guy that I ran into after the war.
Mm-hmm. Did you want to keep up with the guys after the war? Or were
I kept up with my crew till they all deceased. I'm the only one living right now. Yeah. There were three of them from South Philadelphia. One was from Pittsburgh, and one was from Broadway, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And the other one was from Stuart, Virginia. Mm-hmm. They're all deceased now. I'm the only original guy left out of my whole crew. In fact, out of the whole squadron. There's 3 tanks to a squadron. My company commander's gone. My platoon leader was gone. We went over there with 675 men in our battalion, and we came back with 238 guys.
Well, you know, it stays with you, really. And you feel proud about it. You know, you're always rooting for the Navy now, so pretty much so. No, I'm really proud of what we did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think I'm just hoping that the Navy gets built up again, pretty much. I don't know, it's changing all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, everything is high-tech now. Mm-hmm. So I probably wouldn't be able to hack it anymore.
How do you feel that your time in the Army changed you as a person?
It's a good question. No one ever posed that before. I think my values changed a little bit as a result of my time in the Army. Things that I put a lot of emphasis on it turned out to be of lesser interest. That's a part of it anyway.
So maybe it helped you grow up a little bit,
Yes.
sort of mature?
Yes, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I learned a lot as a result of necessity. Not training so much, but necessity. And we were properly trained at Camp Hood, Texas. Big training ground. The biggest one in the world at that time.
But then when you were in combat, you really had to rely on your wits. Yeah.
Your partner and your training. If somebody made a mistake, it could cost you your life. If he, for example, had the barrel of his gun pointed to you when he was trying to unload it, it went off.
So you had to take care of each other.
You have to be very careful. Sometimes you don't care. You get so disgusted you don't care. But that's just temporary.
Yeah. And what would you want, thinking about young people today, what do you feel like they need to know about World War II? What do they need to remember about it that was most important about it?
I just hope that we, in my lifetime, in the lifetime of my loved ones, never get into another war where your life is at stake.
Well, how do you feel that your time in the service changed you as a person? You went in quite young and then you came out and kind of got on with your life. How do you feel that it changed you?
Well, I really have thought about that. And I don't think it would ever come to pass, but, I would like to see if there's more women now too that are interested in the military, and they're going in the military. And I think if they all had, when they got out of high school before they ever went to college, if they would have a year or maybe 2 years or something in the military or something, I wonder if it wouldn't be a benefit to them, because they might, experience the fact that they're away from home, and how, there's so much discipline that, that you can't get by. You have to follow the orders. And if it wouldn't be a help to them, that they might grow up a little bit faster. When we were kids, to be honest about it, we never traveled or anything. I mean, it was, and we enjoyed life. I mean, that's what it was. And you had a good time. You might, there was no air conditioning, or you didn't have all these perks you have now, and you might be sitting outside underneath the shade, and it could be 90 degrees, and you just accepted the fact, that. So I really think that it helps you grow up a little bit, and so that's my feelings anyway.
Early on, they were going to go and kill those terrible people who attacked us in Pearl Harbor. But later on, you're right, because the newspapers gave a lot of space to the horrors of the war, both in the Pacific and also in the Army. Oh my gracious. Plowing through Europe, killed several of my high school friends. And everybody thought, of course, that was the last war. Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah.
But one last interesting thing, about 4 or 5 years ago, I have a son and a daughter. My son is about 61 now. On Veterans Day, he wrote me a letter saying, "Dad, thank you. Thank you for your service." It thrilled me. Yeah. Really did. I'm very lucky that I didn't have to talk about getting injured. So many people were killed or injured. So I consider my Navy experience very beneficial.
We didn't think we were changing the world. We didn't take credit for doing anything like that, but we were there. We saw what was going on. So it's a matter of memories and what that time and what that age was like, and I still think about it. I was too young and too restless, I guess, to really get what I should have gotten out of it then. But when you think about it now, you have a lot of feelings about it. And the thing about it, I think, World War II is that it was really the only and the last really worthwhile war. You know, everybody looks on it that way. So when you say you're a World War II veteran, there's a certain amount of pride because you helped change the world when it needed to be changed and for the better. It's sad in a way now. So many of my friends that lived when I was in service are dead and gone, and I'm just looking for somebody to. Here's what I do. When I pick up the obituaries in the morning, I look for the date people were born. If they were born in 1925, as I was, I already feel as though I have something in common with them and never seen them in their life. And it's just that you shared an age and time, and that meant something.
Yeah.
Well, my experience is that people don't want to talk about it at first, but as you get older, I have talked about my service more in the last 10 or 20 years than I did in all the other years combined. It's just the way time mellows you, and I guess gives you a different idea about what really went on. I don't know, but I know when I got out of service, my father says, now, when you go to church Sunday, I want you to wear your uniform. I says, Dad, that's the last thing I want to do is put on that uniform. I was through with that. But now I regret that I didn't, pay more attention to what people wanted to know about the war and what I could tell them. But we don't always get things straight at first. It takes a while. So I enjoy it more, I guess, now than I ever did.
I do believe that there is beauty in everything, and that all we have to do is search.
Thank you to the veterans who shared their stories for this chapter. Mike Filippelli, Army. Jack Desley, Navy. Lauren Ashley, Army. Elwyn Carew, Merchant Marines. Alan Peterson, Navy. Art Cash, Army. Ted Holliday, Navy. Soldier's Heart is written and produced by me, Cindy Briggs, and features veteran stories from North Carolina. We honor vets by listening to their stories. You can follow along on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Soldier's Heart NC. If you have an idea for a story or interview, email us at soldiersheartnc@gmail.com. Special thanks to the Winston-Salem Muse of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where all these stories are archived. You can learn more about the museum at musews.org. That's musews.org.